All right, so good evening, everybody. This is the third workshop of our level one coaching. Thanks for the good responses for the practical workshop on the 6th to the 8th of March. So we're looking forward to following through everything that you've learned here. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Sipa and let's get cracking.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you everyone for joining us again. And yeah, we're pretty much coming through to the second last part of our theoretical of our presentation. So thank you for that. Thanks for your time, and thanks for the interactions that we sort of picking up on our WhatsApp group. Thanks, guys. So without waste of time, let's go straight to our presentation. Okay. So there is quite a bit that we've touched on, where in terms of our fundamentals, our preparations, game plans, practice plans, and we're coming through to the pre-season training. And this is one part of preparing your team that is very, very crucial. I'm so sorry about that. Switch off my cell phone. Okay, just a moment. Oh man. Just a moment for me there, guys. My apologies. I'm in a presentation that will speak to sincere apologies, everyone. Okay. So what is pre-season training? And basically it allows you to spend more time working on your weaknesses. What are those weaknesses? You know, you're obviously with your team, you're gonna have a plan as to what you're hoping to achieve. Having assessed your players, you know, probably the season before, the in-season situation, and then with your pre-season coming through, then you're gonna look at trying to improve your tactics, you know, and your technical skills. And it also, you look at your physical skills as well, your mental skill, the mental skills of the team, communication. We did speak about that a lot. Character development, speed, you know, to improve an ability to start the acceleration and deceleration, you know, quick change of direction, that's your agility. And then the strength and power, you know, of, you know, training, you know, basically we're looking at quantity versus, you know, quality. I always say the more isn't better, better is better. You know, so the more you work with the team, focusing on little things, as I indicated before, it becomes better. So with all what I touched on at the above, where we talk about tactical and technique, the technical skills, physical skills, and mental skills, it's going to be coming through to the next slide. So your pre-season is very, very crucial. It's crucial to the sense that, you know, it helps to give you direction, you know, and that's where you start polishing everything that you feel your team couldn't achieve the season before. So once again, guys, I'm gonna allow, you know, maybe 2 hands every time I go through a slide. If there's any questions, we're gonna go, I'm gonna take those questions, but only 2 questions or maybe 2 hands. Can we move to the next slide, sir, Jerry? What is a technical skills? Technical skills are all, these are all, you know, the skills that your players should possess in order to play the sport. We touched on the fundamentals last time. Basically fundamentals, we spoke about the chess skills, we talk about ball handling, passing, shooting, rebounding, communication, etc. So those are all your technical skills that within your pre-season, yes, there will be quite a lot that you will do as well within in an in-season sessions. But at your practices. However, it's better to focus a lot on your tactical skills in your preseason. And some coaches prefer their preseason like 3 months before, 5 months before. Some actually push it up to 6 months before you engage into your in-season, programs. Chair skills. Basically, your players need to learn how to push the chair properly. So I say properly there because you look at your hand position when you push the chair. And I do apologize for not sharing quite a number of pictures, but I'll do my best and load it up in on our WhatsApp group. So your hand position is crucial, whereby when you start pushing your chair, you start at your 11 o'clock and you finish up at your 2 o'clock, depending on the level of it, of your the player's injury. So some can actually go as far to 3 o'clock and they can start at 12 o'clock. But that hand positioning, I'll do my best and share the picture there. So we also look at your thumb position as well. Where are you placing your thumb? The grip of your hand onto the chair. So your hands, or you'll have your hands and your fingers fully around the push rim, and then your thumb must always be on the tire of the wheel, and that helps with the power push. And at some stages, before contact, like fortunately enough today we've got one of our referees listening to us, coming into contact depending on your speed. Before you bump the other person, if you have your thumb on the tire, it becomes easier, to actually pull off and do your quick stop. So always teach your players to have their fingers wrapped up around the push rim, and then your thumb on top of of the tire. That is the correct way of pushing. Even if you're on it, basically in your day chair, try that at home. If you're a wheelchair user, try that at home. Push up the step using just the push rim, and feel it using the technique whereby you have your thumb on top of of the tire and the fingers. You will feel that you are more in control when you do so. So it is important to actually start teaching your players to learn how to push the chair properly. And you'll find that in most cases, guys who are actually amputees, the newcomers, they struggle to push the chair because they're not used being on a chair. Unlike most, like the paraplegics, or people that are wheelchair bound, they quickly adapt to the technique. So, but from the beginning, around the fundamentals, teach them how to push their chair properly. Okay, and then below there, I said I tried to share sort of the drills that you can do in order to have your players learning how to push their chair. Power starts, you get your guys to do 2 pushes and stop, 2 pushes and stop, and with that, you must also focus and ask them to focus on the hand speed. It's very, very important that the head start on the power start and power stop. It's important to that 1 second, better off with another player chasing down the ball, or trying to avoid contact, or maybe you're getting to position or defensive position. Very, very important. So the 2 pushes and stop are very, very important. With an advanced guys, you can sort of increase that, you know, with the pulling, you know, we call it track and trailer. So you have your players lined up on the baseline, you have them running all around the court, but you focus on the hand speed. It's not just pushing, but you're asking them to push as quickly as they can. It's power and speed. So the more players we have, you know, you can always increase your intensity in terms of getting them to work out and getting the sweating going. It's a full push and a quick and complete stop. So it's not a short push, but a full extension from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock to 3, vice versa. So it's very, very important. And you also look at the speed of the trunk movement. You know, you know that when players are pushing, they're leaning forward, they're leaning forward and coming back up, leaning forward, coming back up. That movement tells you how quickly you can actually stop yourself as you're pulling your trunk backwards and gripping. You know, that shows and tells you a lot about your ability when it comes to your agility, the change of direction. So the trunk movement, the speed also defines, you know, how quickly you can go. Yes, yeah. So the speed to recover, to push to a push position. So that goes back to the speed of the trunk movement. That's where you actually be able to see how fast and how quickly the player can recover when they're actually pushing. As they lean forward, how quickly they can get up. And like most of the one-pointers, they've got a strapping around the trunk, so they tend to not lean too much forward. And there is just the work of the arms and shoulders. So that power is also defined also by the little bit of a stretch that you would find on the belt around the waist. So that actually helps them as well in terms of the speed and pushing of the chair. Is there any questions around that? Okay, thank you. Still on still on technical skills.
Sorry, Sipa, a question from Stuart.
Yes, Stu.
Thanks, Sipa, good evening, everyone. I just want to know, look, I know you guys make notes and all of that, but with that previous one, we mentioning about going from 11 to, from 11 o'clock, the hand position. So we are mentioning going from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I mean, explaining to the players though. I mean, are you using the right hand as for rule of thumb?
Are we using the right hand
as a rule of thumb? Because if you're thinking about left, it's going from 2 o'clock to basically 11 o'clock.
Both. Remember, they got to be on 11 o'clock, both. Because if you actually have one, pardon?
What I'm saying is that if you look at your right hand will then start at 11 o'clock, okay? So it's just with these notes that you guys, I think you have to maybe have to adjust it though. Because if you're looking at your right hand and you're starting at the back, which is 11, if you're looking at your left hand, it's basically starting at 2 o'clock. So you're going to use your right hand as a rule of thumb. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, you can. Yes, definitely. I'm still a little bit lost when you say you start and at 11 o'clock and then you finish, because you start at 11 or 12, but you finish it off at 2 or 3. But the rule of thumb.
Can I step in here real quick? Do you mind? So yes, you are using your right hand as the rule of thumb, and then you're asking your players to mirror their right hand movement. So you would teach with your right hand position on the wheel, and then you would have them use their left hand as a mirror to their right hand on the opposite wheel.
Correct. So they gotta be in a similar position basically, because you have to mirror that.
Yeah, so it's just because, I mean, I think on the notes it needs to be adjusted though.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
no, I think Stuart, I think you, because the way you're describing it is your right hand's at 11 o'clock and your left hand's at 3 o'clock. It's almost as if you're about to pivot.
Yeah.
So what Sipha's saying is this is a starting push. So to start off the push, you're going to be at 11 o'clock, and therefore you're going to push both hands down at the same time to the 2 or 3 o'clock. I think that's what that slide is telling you to do.
Yeah, no, I hear what you say, but right hand and left hand, when you're looking at clocks on the right and left on the wheel, it will be two different positions though.
I think when Sipha includes the diagrams, it will explain. Yeah. I do have a supplementary document that explains what Sipha's put here quite clearly. So we'll also include that document.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Thanks, Stu. Okay. Okay, more onto chess skills and what drills you can apply. So the U-turns, this actually helps to develop the wheelchair control awareness needed to pick up, jump and recovery on defense. So the U-turn drills as well, I think there is a slide there, Mr. Smith, on U-turns.
What the drill or?
Yeah, the drill. Sorry, the drill.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to share those afterwards.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So use your U-turns development drills as well, so that will help your players, to be aware around what's happening on court. I think we should share. I think we're gonna have to share some videos as well. I think I'm gonna be sharing some videos in the group for everybody to see. Okay, especially those that are pretty much new into coming through to coaching. Okay. Half court, tour. Like I said, you got two players pulling each other. You going around half court. If you have a good number, we can increase, the number of people that have been pulling each other going around on court. Maybe you can go to full court as well. And once again, over there, you look at your thumb rule and the quickness of your hands as well as you push. That actually helps creating and developing power and speed, and it also helps with the muscle memory, and it becomes just natural for the players chasing down the floor on transition, offensively, and then also on defense. So it's very important that you start allowing them, or maybe teaching them to or applying that drill as they're going around on court. And you can use clovers. This is also helps to develop motor learning patterns. Okay, power in movement, and it also helps with for a quick turn explosion on the turns. So I will share the slides on that one as well, guys. My sincere apologies that it didn't actually fit in on this particular slide. We will share those. So the clovers as well, very, very important, because you still have to, the players still have to maintain control and they turn, pushing as quickly, turning, stopping, the next player, turning, stopping. And as they're doing this, you must remember now, the communication has got to be spot on. And then with the clovers, to take it to the next level, especially for the advanced players, you will have to, you can even add a ball as they do the drill. That improves their chess skills and also improves their ball control. And then all of these drills, remember what we spoke about earlier in the previous slides or in the previous presentation, that whatever that you do at your practice session must simulate what happens in a game. We will be touching a little bit on traditional methods and opposed to what we, what is actually currently happening. Because when we started the game, we used to focus, or maybe, get our skills via the traditional methods. I mean, we very, very, that tells a lot about our age. So, so the clovers, for advanced guys, you can add the ball. And for those that are beginners, just try and get them to use and do those turns, quickness and explosion on turns, stop, and then encourage them to keep on communicating. Okay. There are also jump and recovery drills, whereby you would have like 3 marks on the floor, and then you'll have a player jumping to the side, putting pressure on the ball, reversing, coming down to the help position, jumping to the free throw line position, put pressure on the ball, getting back into the center of the court, where there is a help position, and also jumping to the, so you use both sides, like going left and right, left and right, left and right, and top. That helps also for them to be aware that there's always going to be a situation whereby one side is weaker and the other side is stronger. If there's help needed, players can quickly recover and put pressure on the ball. And we all know what the main objective of the high points is in a game situation. They all want to take shots inside the key. There are few players that are very good, taking outside shots. So those that are jumping, are getting inside the key. Help position is ideal, and players that are been trained to, or learned to recover and play help would put pressure on the player that is have entered the key and then maybe it's under the basket. There's put pressure always. I always say to my players, always gotta put pressure on the ball. Once the ball has been released, get into the help position, see what's happening, and that is actually being supported by the level of communication that should be happening on court during the game situation. Is there any questions about that? Okay. All right. Still on technical skills, ball handling skills, regular dribbling with your right hand and left hand. Get your players, I know sometimes people will say we do not have enough equipment, we don't have enough balls. You've got your 10 players, maybe only got 2 balls, but you still have got to get your players to do those drills. Get them to bounce the ball, from the baseline to the halfway court, and then come back, bouncing with the right hand, maybe come back with the left hand. You can sort of improvise there, but, use a tennis ball, because we used to use a tennis ball in order to get ourselves used to handling, how to handle the ball, spreading your hand, spreading your fingers, and just tapping the ball. So going up and down court, and with a minimum, pretty much a minimum of a minute, for every player, to do the drill. Okay. And then you get them to bounce the ball, which I said big dribbling, basically bouncing ball as high to your shoulder height. And that's pretty much happens, in most of the game situation, whereby you receive a pass, as you bounce, as you push, the ball actually bounces to your shoulder height, and you've got to be able to control that. Ask them to do small dribblings, bouncing the ball as low as possible. That actually forces them to lean forward and go low. And in a game situation that happens, be on your fast breaks, and also maybe when you're picking up the ball. So you get them to bounce as low as possible. And then you can do the rocket dribbling where your ball is straight forward and straight back. Basically, you're bouncing in front of the, the crash bar of the chair. Bounce straight, going straight up to the finish line of the other side of the court, and then coming back, doing the same thing. That teaches you the control and also pretty much the chair control, as you're rolling back. The chair is actually being controlled, not swinging sideways and going the other side and the other side. So it basically remains stable. So it's very, very important to teach them that as well. Crossover dribbling. So crossover dribbling, it's you bounce the ball from one side over your left and then bounce to the other side. You getting them to learn to do those using both hands, your left hand and your right hand as well. Okay. Dribbling around your back. You've seen most of our senior and elite players doing that, whereby they can actually pivot and get the ball to travel around, the body and bounce, stop. They also bounce spin, ball pickups. So all of those things are very crucial in a game situation. And then you can do those under the figure of 8, tossing, clapping. When you say tossing, you toss it to the player and catching. You toss, clap, catch. And you can get your players to do this by themselves, using a wall, and let them lean against the wall or maybe face the wall and do those drills there. So you can always find ways to if you're busy as a coach with something else, get the players to use your surroundings like the wall, and or maybe you get them to a 2-on-2. Is there any questions around that?
Sipha, I think just to add, obviously during the practical workshop, you will demonstrate all of this stuff.
Yes, we definitely, and definitely, Jerry. We'll also, like I said, we're also going to try and share some videos in our group. What I would like to see is that interaction, in our groups. Right now it's all about load shedding and the likes, but we need to speak a lot more about, the coaching and what is required as a coach. So never shy, never fear to ask any question through our group sessions. Our WhatsApp sessions. Okay. So ball handling, skills, ball pickups. So basically you roll the ball towards a player, the right-hand side, let the guy go low, pick up the ball, okay, and roll the ball again, on the left-hand side, let the player pick it up, or ask the players to roll the ball themselves forward, go towards the ball, pick it up, and then do the same on the left-hand side. Let them go up and down the court doing that. And this also helps a lot with the trunk and the core muscles, with wheelchair basketball, your core has got to be, it has got to be good enough to handle, the movement and pivoting, it also comes back to the rebounding, which you're gonna have coming to it very, very shortly. So your core muscles are one of the key areas of the sport that you need to work on. Strengthen the core muscles of the player, because with the pivoting, pushing, agility, turning and the likes, it will help a lot, with the skills. Two-hand overhead rebounding in a game situation. Chances are most of the players, they will rebound using one hand. So be an offensive rebound or defensive rebound, but the stability, of your core it's very, very crucial. So you can throw the ball, ask them to throw over their head, rebound using the wall. Let them actually be sitting against facing the wall. Let them bounce the ball from the wall, hands straight up, receiving, bouncing it back. Maybe for the elite players, we can use a medicine ball. Yes, it's gonna be quite tough, but you wanna make sure that those shoulders are strong. You gotta make sure that trunk is stable enough. So in a game situation, when you're rebounding, you wanna get to the ball first before your opponent reaches the ball. So it's very, very important to work on that as well. Passing skills, we know the chest pass, bounce pass, hook pass, and one-hand pass. The caterpillar is one of the drills that you can use to improve that, but it also helps you to improve the chest skills. With the caterpillar, it also helps a lot with the communication, especially if you have introduced the ball into that drill. So your players need to learn how to pass the ball. What is very unique about our sport is the level of injury and the level of range of movement. So it's very, very important to know how to pass to the low pointer. It's very, very important how to know how to pass to the high pointer or mid pointer. And that will all be directed or maybe be shown to you guys during our practical sessions. So let them must know, they must actually be on the caterpillar, be able to face each other, pass the ball in straight up, release, thumbs down, as they release the ball to the other player, pivot and tend to get to the other position, receive the ball with arms extended and calling each other's name. That's where the level of communication come in, because you're calling the player's name even before you pass the ball. Yeah, teach them that before they even pass the ball, they must call in the person's name and then release the ball. That will also help to improve, their skills level when it comes to passing skills. Any questions there? Any of our coaches that are in this group are understanding what you're talking about in this session? Okay. I think next slide, Mr. Smith.
We have a hand up here. Go ahead.
Good evening, coaches. Thank you for the opportunity. I think most of the questions I have, I think I will better understand the answers when I see them happening. So I'll refrain from asking questions up until we go for practicals. So please do not mind us not asking. It's because we are trying to picture the things that you are saying.
Yeah,
trying to put them in actual action. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, thanks for that. I think it would have actually helped a lot if we've included some slides and videos. And those videos will be or definitely be shared, in our WhatsApp group. Okay. But if you feel there is a question that you feel you want to ask, please do ask. Okay. Okay. Back to technical skills. Now we're on shooting. Set shots. So once again, in a game, in your practice session, use the floor. Do markings on the floor where you want your players to take their shots. You can have your baseline markings, your your 45-degree, your elbow markings, your free throw, right through to the other side. And some for advanced guys, you can push them to a 3-point shot as well. So a 3-point line as well. Have your markings over there. So those set shots, it's where your players are sitting still and taking shots from those positions. And you really and truly have got to push them. And one area that we as South Africans are lacking is our finishing. Our finishing is not as strong. I think that boils down to how much of effort is being put in at our practice sessions. So let them learn to shoot set shots, because those are the shots that you will need in a game whereby it's down to a second or two, then you have got to take the shot. And once the players know, or maybe like I said, the muscle memory, it's there. They can quickly react to it and bank the shot. Okay. Let your players learn to do layups, overhand layups, underhand layups, and some of our players are very good at that now at a super sport level. So as you teach your players to do layup on the right-hand side, let them shoot, with the right hand. Coming down to the left-hand side, let them learn to use the weak hand, which is the left hand. So we're very guilty that our players are shooting with a dominant hand all the time. And in a game situation whereby you have to use your left hand and maybe your strongest side is being overplayed, you can't shoot with your left, you get compromised. So crucial that even your weak side, your weak hand is being worked on, so that it becomes better and easy if the defense is on the right-hand side, and then you can take a shot with the left-hand side, with the left hand, sorry. And then if your defense is on the left-hand side, you can take a shot, depending on the position of the chair, or with the right hand. So crucial that you teach them to do those layups and also the shots using both hands. Free throws, a volume of free throws. If it's individuals, try and push them to shoot at least 50 free throws. As a group, you push them to shoot, say about 100 free throws. Layups, we push them to about 200. And then as a group, if it's maybe individuals, then you just push them to about hundreds of layups. So you just want to get them to do those volumes, and they're going to put in that amount of work, and it just becomes natural afterwards. So from the beginning, we have to force them or actually teach them to learn to shoot layups proper, overhand, underhand, and straight layups. As I said, the advanced skills, moving shots, like we said, under the set shots over there, advanced, you can get them to shoot as they push the chair slightly forward and take the shot, even with the underhand layups, they can do the same. Reverse layups, baseline, as they're coming across in the baseline, they just do the reverse layups. Obviously, they use the right hand and the left hand. So, okay, I'm actually pretty much repeated myself there, and the different use of layup, overhand, and using the left and right, underhand, also right and left, and reverse, and center. Center coming down the center of the key through your free throw line and take the straight shot. Some would actually use a hook layup and or underhand layup as they're coming down the center. Is there any questions around that?
Go for it, Fred.
Thank you, Gary and Sips. Something just rang a bell in my mind. You know what Sips said about putting markings on the court to show where you want your players to shoot from.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, because I'm just relating to how we normally practice. You know, if I'm going to take a 45-degree shot, I just head in a general 45-degree direction. I don't go to a specific spot. And I think having markings, it kind of gives you a target, because just like shooting, you need a target in order to get the ball in the basket. So I think also in terms of the positioning itself, if you have markings on the floor, it will also give you a target in terms of where you want to be. So between, like, normally what happens, you have a low pointer working with a high pointer. It then gives the low and the high pointer some kind of direction as to how they have to work their way to get to that position that's marked on the floor. I don't know if I'm right in my interpretation.
No, you absolutely right there, Fred. And with the markings as well, it does also provide you with understanding your distance. You know, how far can you open up your elbow? How far can I actually lift up my shot? So the set shots, especially set shots that are under, let's say you've got few spots under the ring, you know, very close to the ring, that actually forces player to lift their shots. And where in most cases you'll find from the distance you have to push a shot and it becomes a bit flat. So if you have all these spots on the floor, it like I said, once again, it's muscle memory. The understanding of how far must I push my shot, how high must I push my shot, it plays a very, very good role. Yes, with working with your low pointers, or maybe you know, but we need to move away from that, Fred. It's not always that you'll have to work with your low pointer. We gotta work with everybody on court. We gotta move away from the traditional situation, depending what your coach is trying to achieve, you know. So high pointers can work with high pointers. High pointers can initiate pick before the low pointer. And if you initiate picks, you must remember you're the one that becomes open. But we will speak about that in our next level of our coaching, you know, that level 2. So yes, marking on court, very, very important. Once again, when you mark you mark the floor, you mark them in a situation whereby your team will take those shots, and the distance. I always try and say to my players, have a wheelchair length outside the key and do your first marking. Your elbows as well, your 45. You're not always finding your players shooting on a 45. They have to learn to shoot the baseline. So how close must I be in a baseline? Have I been compromised? And like where the defensive team is pushing me further, am I being able to take that shot? Or should I actually pop it up and pass it to the top to the point guard and reset it again until you find your spot? And then once you find your spot, it becomes very easy. It's pretty much going to be like a 70-80% shot, you know, in, if you know your range and you know your strengths in a game. So yes, very, very crucial that. So your markings actually gives you quite a lot, and I'm just going deeper in it right now. However, we will push that into our level 2 as to why you have to have those markings on the floor, how it's going to benefit your team. Is there any other question? Okay. So I also mentioned the fundamentals and how much of volume that you gotta put in, as an individual or as a group. So it might seem crazy and ridiculous, but that's basically the standards of how far you should push your team to take those shots. 200 to 500 free throws, we're looking at 100. And I know, which is one of our biggest letdown here in our country, with the availability of training courts and getting to the courts, do your shots. But players can do these exercises at home. They can practice shooting action at home, and if they've got a ball, they must learn to pop it up against the wall, So it shouldn't be an excuse, that they need to be on court. So yes, obviously you want to see them score, you want to see yourself scoring, but you can't just wait for that moment to get on court. So push the players, say, you know what, there's a ball, take the ball today, tomorrow do this, then probably for the next time you're going to give a ball to the next player and let them practice all of this. So it's very, very crucial that we push up the volume of shots. And it's very evident with us here when we play Super Sport for 40 minutes and we have to reach 40 points. And some teams can't even reach 40 points. And I've seen national players that they can't even, when they're taking shots, free throws, they can't even reach the free throw, the basket, the basket when they're taking a shot. It's just not acceptable for a national player. At least touch the ring or the board. But if the ball doesn't even reach that, it says a lot about how much of work we're putting in at our club levels. So you as coaches, you got to make sure your players takes those volume of shots. They push him as hard as you can, and shooting should be one of our key focal points, of the national team. Yes, our defense is looking much better, but our shooting is still letting us down a bit. There should be games that we should be won, but we do not win those games because our shooting was not spot on. Okay. Stationary jumpers. So well, in a group, you actually give them 25 and maybe to a 50 from each spot. So you get them sitting still and then get one guy to jump, put pressure, pop the shot, recover, pass the ball, jump, take the shot and recover. So it's very, very important that. Okay. That also helps with movement and of the defensive player. And as you push forward, as they jump, then you take your shot. So very, very important. Okay. The figure of 8, I think I touched on that one as well. I'm not sure why I repeated myself there. Okay. Fake shots. Not just ourselves here. We're not practicing this at our trainings. Teach them to do fake. Can be a head, can be an eye, hands, shoulders, voice. Because you just want to try and misdirect, the defense. So you can swing your head on one side, but where the ball where you want the ball to come. Can lift up your arms as if you're receiving the ball, and probably the defense will react. But as soon as the defense reacts, then you're in. So your hand must be moving. You do shoulder fakes and all that. The voice shouting, once again, spoke about communication. Your voice, you gotta be loud on court. So whatever that you do at a practice session will pay dividend in your game situation. So teach them to do fake move on court. And we do not do quite a lot of that in our practice session, you know. And with the number of years of experience in the game, yes, it just becomes natural, you know. And senior players, that guys have been playing at the high level of the game, they know all of this. So very, very important to teach them fake move. Any questions around that? Okay, there are no hands. Still on technical skills. So we're looking at shooting. How do we handle the ball? And I know some of the athletes or some of the players will say, I'm comfortable in this way and I'm confident in that way. And it doesn't help if you're not using the correct technique. First, in terms when you're receiving the ball, how do I actually handle the ball? Okay, how firm the ball must be on my palm, where my fingers should be. So as you receive the ball, am I balanced? I mean, am I in a good position to take the shot? And am I using my index finger to finish it off? Okay. So your chair must always face the direction of the basket. Your head position always face the direction of the basket as you receive the ball. Okay. And then once you receive the ball must be fully firm on the palm of your hand. Okay. But try not to have the ball like, firm on the palm perfectly, but let there be a little bit of space underneath, which means your ball will be landing a lot more on your fingers. Okay. Then you must feel the ball. Feel the ball, and that feel comes with your fingers, elbow, extend, and lock. So your fingers you should be the main control of the ball when you're taking a shot, but should be the main control of the ball as you're receiving it. Okay, then your elbow should be tucked in, and the direction of the elbow as well, before you take the shot, should be facing the basket. Anyway, as you take the shot, it must extend. Okay. And obviously your wrist and elbow, your elbow must basically lock. So your wrist will be the one that actually give that flick as you're releasing the ball. So we're gonna be looking at the BIF methods, where you balance yourself as you're receiving your chair, as you're receiving the ball, you're sitting on your chair, you balance yourself, and then your elbow tucked in, facing the direction of the basket. You keep your eyes on the basket. Yes, there'll be distraction because there'll be defense in front of you, but do not lose the target. Your target is to make sure that your eyes are firmly faced and locked onto the target, and the target will be the basket, and obviously the follow through. That's when you're extending it and then follow through and you're flicking with your wrist. there will be some few slides coming through now on shooting. So far, is it clear there?
Go ahead, Stuart.
Hey, what I'm just want to know, this is based upon a person shooting with one hand to play that, one hand, and with the guide on the left-hand side to play that. Question is, some people which I've seen already, look, I'm not long in the sport, they use both hands to play that, to shoot. So my question is that, have there anybody drawn up a theory behind it? Is there some specifics behind it? Because this is just based upon a single hand shot though.
Okay.
Sorry, Sips, let me just come in here. Stuart, in the chat box, I've shared a document called Shooting Techniques, and it covers all of what you've just asked there. So it should answer your question there.
Yeah, I downloaded, but I didn't read through it yet. So yeah, because I'm listening out to you guys though. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Maybe just to give a small response there, Jerry. Yes, Stu. Once again, it goes back to, even if you're shooting with both hands, but the technique is still the same. And I know that most of the one-pointers will say, "Hey, I can't shoot. I cannot shoot with one hand. I cannot shoot. I can only shoot with two hands." Let them learn the technique proper, the extension, the firmness of of your wrist, the ball landed onto your hand, and you're using the grip, the grooves of the ball, those lines on the ball, using those lines where your fingers will be actually tucked in there, and then as you take a shot, there's still a follow through. The principle is still the same. It's still the same, but the idea is make sure that they learn to shoot with one hand, because the other hand is a supporting hand that actually give a good proper direction and as the players take the shot. So as we're indicating on this particular slide that you see there, it takes some time. It takes some time to really and truly master your shooting technique. So it's ideal that the players from the beginning, from the basics, of development, they get to learn the proper fundamentals of of shooting, or the skills of shooting. So they cannot just, because I'm a low pointer. That's the main excuse that I normally hear. I'm a low point, I can't. They gotta move away from that. And if they can't, then definitely the technique must just be the same. And once again, as we said in this particular slide, it just takes some time to master it. So once you have mastered your shot, you keep on the techniques. You keep on practicing it. You look up, you lock into the target, you balance, you follow through, and you flick the ball. Receive, balance, look up, follow through. Those are the main 3 stages of shooting. But the feeling of the ball, remember now, if I probably have seen the NBA players, even our basketball players, on a free throw, they receive a ball from the official, they bounce the ball maybe once, twice, they've got a certain rhythm, they bounce the ball 1, 2, 3, and then look up. While they're bouncing the ball, they want to have a feel of the ball. Maybe the lines of the ball are actually on the side, and they're not behind, and whether you're gonna have your hand behind the ball, and then your fingers are fully much like sort of in the groove, those lines of the ball. So you actually bounce the ball, feel the ball, spin it around, let the players feel the ball, and then take the shot. Then you keep on emphasizing that to the player. And in a game situation as well, you'll find that the player will be much comfortable to take the shot anyway. And even when we do those set spots, set shots, markings on the floor, you get them to follow the same principle of receiving the ball, balance yourself, look up, and then shoot, follow through, lock your elbow. So those are the basic steps, that your players should learn. Yeah. But thanks for that, Jerry. I mean, that you have shared, some of the information on it there, on our pro. Thank you. Can we move on? Okay. Pretty much what I've just pointed out now, your chair and head position. Prepare a shot, the ball before it touches your hand. So as you're receiving, you already seeing the ball coming through to you. You receive, feel the ball, spin it around, compose yourself, balance yourself. Once again, look up, lock into the target. Do not worry about the defensive player coming into your space. Just take your shot, follow through. And in most cases, if the defensive player enter your space, you're still in there, and also maybe touches you, it will definitely become a foul. And then you just follow through. Do not run away from the defense. You can even shoot through their hands. As if they touches you, chances are that the officials will call for you in that particular instance. Always have your chair, your castles, crash bar. I said to my players, use the crash bar, the bar that's in front of the chair. It must always face the basket. The players must not be twisted. It's very, very difficult. Yes, some of the high pointers, they've got a full range of movement. It helps them to swing, duck, tilt, and then maybe take their shot. If they have masters of skills, it's all good and well for them. But the basics is always have the chair facing the basket, your head, your eyes locking onto the target, and obviously you use your dominant hand, or obviously if you're using two hands, then you just take the shot using your most comfortable way of shooting. As they're coming through, try not to move too much, okay? Because if you're moving, you may actually misjudge the range. How far must my elbow be extended? We'll speak about that later on when it comes to practical, how far the angle of my elbow be extended in order to do a shot. I'm in a short distance, I'm in a longer distance, and how high the ball must go. So always be stable. Your hand still, eyes focus on the target, and you just take the shot. Any questions there? I'm not sure how are we doing with time, Mr. Smith?
You got 23 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Hand and ball position, okay? Your elbow must be on an L position. So as you receive the ball, as I said it earlier, you actually have it tucked in, okay? In an L position, even if you're using both hands, but both hands tucked in, or pretty much like in front of you, you know, by your chest facing the basket, your eyes facing the basket, your head fully firm, directly to the basket, and you can take the shot. So your wrist, okay, it must be a bit wrinkled. I'm sure if you can look at it now, as you receive a ball, your wrist must actually, as if falling backwards a bit. At the back of your wrist, there is a bit of a wrinkle there. So you must know that if that happens, at least you in a comfortable position that you can take the shot. And the ball, once again, guys, must not be completely firm on the palm of your hand, but just slightly on top of your fingers, you know, and like a small gap. That will actually give you a liberty to, as you take a shot, when you're flicking it, it gets to be finished by your fingers. So and then obviously we spoke about that follow through. So it's more about the balance as you're receiving it. Compose yourself, tuck in, L position, look up, lock into the target, shoot, extend, lock your elbow, and follow through. So as I said, the ball must be in the center of centered in the middle of your hand. The ball on our upper part of the palm, so like towards your fingers. Okay, spread your fingers, go as wide as possible. Okay, even if you're using both hands, go as wide as possible. Okay, straight line between the thumb and the thumb and the pinky. So it's more of the technique now as to where you want the ball to be set in. And yes, some of our guys, you know, they've got short fingers. Maybe some of the hands are missing. Some of the fingers are missing of the hand, and it becomes a little bit of a tricky one there. But the basics is, as you're receiving the ball must not be firm on the palm of your hand. It must be somewhere on top of the fingers. Even if you have one or two or shorter fingers, then you know it's just a technique and skill that you actually mastering. So and then straight line from the index finger to the target. So the index finger is the finishing finger, and that one, as you extend, as you follow through, you take a shot. That finger must always point to the direction of the target, which is the basket, and your eyes must never move from there. And I say to my players, where your eyes are looking, your fingers must finish up there. The extension must finish up there. And unknown olden days, we used to say, look at the back of the ring. And as you take that shot, make sure you give the ball the back spin, because if it hits the back of the ring, it pops back into the ring. You know, so always that will always be defined also by the height, you know, of the floor, the float of the ball into the back of the ring with a back spin. So the index finger is the finger that finishes off the shot. Any questions there, guys? No question. Okay. Okay, still on the correct hand and ball position. So we mentioned that the ball must be on the center of the palm. Okay, the index finger pointing at the valve. You know, you know the valve of the ball, in line with the thumb and the pinky. The triangle towards the target. So basically, remember that L position we mentioned. That must be sort of it be a bit of a tongue. But with us now, once again, depending on your stability, the chair positioning, your elbow must always be tucked in, come in, must come in, and the elbow must always face the basket. So it's very much like sort of repeating myself here, but it's the same principle all the time. You cannot take the shot if you're not balanced. You don't take a good shot, let me put it that way, if you're not properly balanced, and you do not extend and follow through on the shot. So those are the steps that always, when you're teaching your players, they must understand and be able to perform. Okay. So that's the triangle there on the left side. Okay. So your fingers widely spread. Okay. And as you can see at the bottom picture there, the ball is controlled by the palm, but they see there's a bit of a gap there, and the fingers, the ball is landed on the fingers, and then and the fingers are widely spread. That will give you control, and then obviously once again the elbow will extend towards the direction of the ring. Okay. Okay, that's the L position we spoke about. Okay. Is it possible to do a pointer there, Jerry? No?
Maybe, but I don't know.
Okay. All right. So that's an L position, from the elbow up to the hand. So your hand is fully at the back. That's where the wrinkle part I was talking about. Unfortunately, this is on an angle. But if you think about it, or if you're looking at your hand right now, you'll see the back of the hand will have a bit of a wrinkle there. And look at the ball, how the lines are. So those lines are referred to earlier on. The fingers are feeling those lines, those grooves. And it gives a lot of help when it comes to the backspin. Okay. So as you finish up with your fingers, you give it a flick and you give it a backspin. So that should be an angle that is correct, even if you're using both hands once again. But I'll put a lot of emphasis, try and get your players not to use both hands. Okay, push them as much as you can. I know it's actually tough for some of the ladies, but surely if they're working on the skill, it's possible that they can achieve those. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, that's the triangle there. Once again, your fingers spread, widely spread, on the follow through, flat and directed to towards the target. It's very basic, and it makes life much easier when you see the pictures on the side there, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, so always as you release the ball, extended, follow through, and the fingers must face the target, direction of the target. I'm not gonna go through in details about that. So we spoke about the beef and feeling. So beef, it's balance. Okay, beef is balance. Eyes on the target. Elbows sit under the ball. Okay, and F is for follow through. And with feeling, it's obviously fingers, eyes, elbows, and lock. Okay, those points are the basics of what your players should understand and be able to execute. Okay. Next one, Baba Smith. Any questions, guys?
Super, I think
with it.
I think with the time left, maybe some question and answers, and then you use the next slides for your next presentation.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, guys, you may shoot if there's any questions.
Hello.
Go, Stuart.
Hey, with the balance part, look, the guys is look, I'm an able body.
Correct.
With balancing, what I want to know is, look, guys is differently able, the high top and all of that, but the guys which is very high up, I mean, differently abled, how do they go about with balancing? Well, how do you say to this guy which is very high up, how do they balance basically before they take the shot though?
Okay. All right. So as they receive the ball, okay, but basically when you say balance, we mean be stable. You cannot take a shot if you're still trying to get yourself to a balanced position, maybe falling off your chair. So as you receive the ball, be stable, sit up nicely on your chair. Then obviously you're looking up onto the target. So with balance, it's like be stable on the chair. I think that's the better word to use. Okay, be stable on the chair, and then you look up. Even with an able body, guys, when they're receiving the ball, you'll find that they will first jump, get down to the floor, pivot, look up, before they take the shot. They don't just take a shot while they're still running. They're basically finding firm their feet onto the ground. Now, and in this particular case with us on wheelchairs, it's a question of you being stable in your chair, not falling off. You cannot take your shot while you actually falling off to the right hand side and maybe falling off to the left hand side, or you're trying to get up and So it balance means stability. So be always firm onto the chair, lean back onto your backrest, and then you follow through with all the principles of your eye, elbow, and follow through. I think that answers.
Okay, thanks, Sip. Sizwe, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to find out, in terms of shooting, if, especially with the girls and schoolgirls particularly, if they can't shoot to the rim, would it be a bad thing, a bad practice for me to say that the kids must just learn how to work on their strengths, like pick, let's say, 1 point, learn how to pick and just shoot until they get the strength to hit the rim, especially if they're like 1-pointers, and you can see that no ways. I don't know.
Seeps, maybe ask Trooper to come in here with his experience with the youngsters that he does on the other side.
Okay, cool.
Hi, and that's a great question. So I think what's important is that everybody has a valuable role within the team. And you are going to have players that, because of their level of disability or because of some other condition, that they are not able to shoot efficiently, right? And what you want to do is just as you mentioned, get them to understand the importance of chair position and setting picks and being a valuable part of the team in a different aspect, and let their teammates shoot. As their strength starts to improve, then you can start focusing on shooting over time. But the biggest part is letting them feel and putting them in a position where they can be successful and valuable within their team, and not putting them in a position where they're not going to be able to be successful.
Yeah. Even sometimes, my brother, having them to come close to the basket, and you do your markings, once again, your set shots, bring them close to the basket, let them learn to, to shoot from the close range rather than shooting from the distance, until they come to an age whereby they'll be able to take those long shots. But once again, as Coach T said, let them understand that there's other valuable points and contribution that they can have in a game situation, like doing the picks and playing, with the other teammates and open up gaps and spaces for the other teammates.
So basically, no matter what, they must learn how to shoot.
There'll come a stage whereby they will have to learn to shoot. There will come a stage where they're in a game situation, they have to take a shot, depending, once again, in terms of the distance. Okay, but it's always nice to let them, before they even get the strength and be able to take the shot, or maybe able to lift up the shot whereby they can reach the ring. But let them master the other skills as well. Okay, and you cannot sort of stop them from trying to get, to do layups, and or maybe to do the free throws. Bring them closer. When I was in America, I saw 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds playing wheelchair basketball, something that we do not have here in South Africa. And they actually lowered the hoops for the kids, and they're playing in proper chairs, by the way, proper basketball chairs, but they have lowered the ring. And the most exciting part about basketball, especially if you're a youngster, it's all about scoring. They want to score. When you get older, when you're making a good pick, you're making a good pass, it feels as good as the guy that finished off the shot. But when you're younger, they just want to finish off. They want to score baskets. So they find ways to lower, they've got special hoops, basically, that's actually lower at the heights whereby they can shoot. That's why some of these countries are way ahead of us, because the introduction of sports, it's actually from the ages of 5, 6, or 7. And I've got pictures and videos of that. I will share those with you guys, So it's important that they know that eventually you gotta get to the stage whereby you are able to shoot. Never deny them that opportunity, but there are other variables that they can contribute with when it comes to the game situation.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
Anybody else have comments, questions? Don't be shy.
I think Charles got a question.
He's not on anymore.
Oh, is it not? Oh. Thanks for asking a lot of questions. Do we not have wise men on this time around?
Oh, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
To add an able-bodied basketball coach.
Your sound is not great. Do you want to just try again?
Is it clear now? Hello?
Yeah, okay, try again. Your sound is breaking up. We can't hear you.
I was just adding on the balance that the coach asked about the balance, and as an able-bodied coach, basketball coach, we always emphasize the kids the word of triple threat on them. When it's triple threat, when you're ready to take a shot, ready to dribble the ball, to pass the ball. So on the balance side in the chair, coming to basketball, usually and some on that. But then the balance side, the balance that shows the beef side of Mac. And the beef with beef, balance, which is ready to catch the ball, to pass the ball, or to shoot the ball. So I was saying on the coach asking about that when you emphasize the part of balance, the balance side gets ready to pass the ball, to shoot the ball, or to dribble the ball.
Did you get the gist of that, Sipa?
I'm not sure if it is a question. I think it is pointing out, between the able body basketball and wheelchair basketball when it comes to balance, how important, how crucial it is, to be balanced before you take a shot or before you pass the ball. It wasn't quite clear, to be honest. But yeah, the element of balance, it's because immediately when you're receiving a ball, you gotta receive a ball and then look up, whether you're gonna be passing the ball or whether you're gonna be shooting, but you've got to be stable when you in control of the ball. So I'm not quite sure, but I'm trying to go over what he probably was saying. But yeah, it's very, very crucial that, in wheelchair basketball, when you're in your chair, you are fully strapped, and the strapping part plays a huge role when it comes to your balance and stability on the chair. And before you execute any movement, you gotta make sure that you are fully balanced. I'm not sure whether I heard you right there, my brother, but you can write it up on a WhatsApp group or probably write it on this right now, and then maybe you can read it up and check and hear what you were saying. Unfortunately, your line was not clear. Sorry about that.
Tasmeed, you had your hand up, and so did Wiseman.
I was calling my name, so I was telling him I'm still around.
Okay, you can go away now. All right. Any other questions, comments?
You said Tasmina's got a question. What?
Had a hand up, took it down, or
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. She clicked by Tasmin clicked by mistake. No problem. Okay, guys. So I think let's wrap it up for this evening. There will be the Monday session, of course. We'll have to ask permission from Eskom, of course. But if there are any problems in terms of being able to broadcast it, we'll let you know. Otherwise, it'll go on as planned. And we'll catch up the one that we missed on Monday on Tuesday night. And then the rest, those that have responded to the practical workshop, we've now finalized that. You'll be getting notification in the next day or so. And yeah, take it from there. And as Sipa said, he will share video clips and keep the communication going on the WhatsApp group. Don't be shy to ask questions. No question is a stupid question.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing further, have a good evening further. Those of you that have just logged on after Eskom has allowed you to go, you can watch the video, and I'll upload it in the next hour or so, depending on how long it takes to upload to YouTube.
Alrighty. Thanks, Mr. Smith. Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening.